today and Thursday we're going to talk about verbal and nonverbal communication. Okay? And all the aspects of meaning and interpretation and performance that go along with one's capability to communicate competently with people from another cultural world, both physically, non-verbally, and verbally, linguistically, right? So, of course, for us, there's so many issues related to intercultural communication. The author divides the chapter into nonverbal and verbal forms. We're going to focus, at least initially today, on the nonverbal forms of communication, and we'll provide some examples and define the different forms of nonverbal communication. Some scholars claim that 80% of our communication and meaning are expressed non-verbally. So it's kind of good news, bad news in a way. The good news is that it helps us focus on our bodies and how we do express ourselves through gestures and tone and movement and distance from each other, and the environment, how we situate ourselves within an environment, and so on and so forth. So the emphasis on nonverbal is really important, and it's a good thing, and we're going to talk about it in detail. Kind of the bad news part of that is, don't think that you can adapt to another cultural world just non-verbally. I mean, it's an important part, but the 80% claim is problematical in my view, having worked hard at adapting in two very, very different cultural worlds, being Japan and Toronto. So, the more linguistic competency that you have, that you can develop, the greater your capacity for adapting. Okay? So in the verbal area, which we'll maybe get to by the end of the class, there is the discussion of the semantic, the syntactic, and the pragmatic dimensions of language. And next time I'm going to talk about Chomsky's, Noam Chomsky's theory of language, his theory of universal grammar, theory of syntax with a capital S, and those notes are available to you. Okay, but today we're going to go through the list of different kinds of nonverbal communication that are laid out in the book. Right? So the author provides definition of language and verbal and nonverbal languages in the first couple pages, and then gets into this list beginning on page 54. All right, who's got their book? We have. Just go down the list on those 2 pages, and I'll write them on the board. Tell me what they are. Ready? Go. What's the first one? Artifacts. Artifacts. What's the next one?
Paralanguage.
Paralanguage. What's the next one? What? Kinesics. Next. Pardon? Proxemics. What's next?
Haptics.
Haptics. Okay? What's next? That's it? Okay, let's go through these. We talked about artifacts a little bit already. How are artifacts expressive of who you are, all right? Think of your own artifacts. Your own artifacts. What would be an example of some of your own artifacts? You're adapting to another cultural world and you're thinking about your own artifacts. What's going to give you away? In other words, what's going to reflect your identity or your nationality or
The way you dress.
okay, your way you're so, for example, you a Longhorn? How did I guess? Right, we got an artifact. We got a Longhorn in the room. Are we going to discriminate against you because you're a Longhorn? Some do, right? All right? So Texas Longhorn, you give yourself away. Immediately, you give yourself away. Right, so it's okay. What else? Other artifacts that we express ourselves. Yeah. Kind of car you drive. Okay? So the kind of car you drive can be an indicator of what? Of wealth, status, debt. or other things, right? Okay, what else? Yes?
Where you live?
It's an artifact? Okay, so an artifact is like an environmental aspect of who you are. So where you live, the kind of house you live in, or apartment you live in, all that kind of thing is artifactual. Can you use the standard from your own culture in evaluating the artifacts of another culture? Just talking about where you live. Yeah.
I guess depends how similar the cultures are. Like,
Okay.
there's some cultures more similar and then there are other, like, further apart, so.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, I'm just thinking about where you live. So, when we say suburbs in this country, usually there's an association of what? What's a suburb? What do you find in a suburb?
Big houses?
Big houses, shopping centers, lots of cars, yeah.
Like middle and upper class families.
Middle, upper, and upper class families. What else? Anything else? A lot of fast food. Okay, when you say suburbs in Paris, you can get the same thing? What do you get? Suburbs in Paris. Farms? Not really. Anybody been to the banlieue outside of Paris? What's the banlieue outside of Paris? It's the slums.
So the suburbs is the ghetto?
Suburbs are the ghetto. They call them the ghetto. Lots of walls. Who lives there? Poor people. Where are they from?
Other countries.
What countries? The countries that France colonized. Because the countries that France colonized, the colonies, those people were, or became, not all of them, not all countries that France colonized, but most of them, some of Algeria especially, were considered French citizens. That's no longer the case. So most of the folks who live in the suburbs of Paris are from former French colonies, many of which are African and North African. So different sense of what a suburb constitutes. So that's what your place, the environment, and what we think, what our presuppositions are about a place, are affected when we go to another culture. Okay, what other artifacts give you away? Yeah. The clothes you wear. Okay, so give me an example just in our own cultural world how you can distinguish Oh, gee. A professor from an administrator.
Well, I think administrators are a lot, I guess, is you may have walking computers, so they're being like more in the walk, not like behind their office and doing their living. I guess you as a professor would be like.
So they're not out and about. The
Yeah.
movement is curtailed. It's not the same, right? They're confined to a cubicle or an office more so than faculty. Interesting insight. What else? This is not the case. I mean, I don't want to overgeneralize, but most administrators, men, wear ties and suits. That's an artifact. A tie is an artifact. Most managers and administrators who are women wear nice suits. I mean, they dress up. Faculty tend to kind of either, look at me, right? So, shirt and jeans and comfortable shoes.
I've seen worse.
Worse? This is bad, but you've seen worse, right? I did have a jacket. I wore a jacket today. Nice jacket, but it's too hot. So.
My grandpa would wear shorts and t-shirts.
Yeah. I mean, some faculty will wear suits and ties. I'll wear a suit and tie someday. You'll see me with a suit and tie on at some point during the semester, probably. And then some managers and administrators dress down a little bit. But it's an expression of their role, right? We're talking about roles here, a role. How can you identify an American by their dress overseas? You communicate your national identity by how you dress. Yeah.
While I lived in France, everyone, especially during the winter, knew that I was American because I wasn't wearing black all the time.
Right, so there's colors that are associated with the proper season. In Japan, it's blue suits if you're a man, and women too. A blue suit in the winter and a gray suit in the summer. And if you deviate from that norm, you're identified as a foreigner of some kind. So in France as well. Okay, what else? Yeah.
Clothing with flag on it.
Clothing with flag on. Most Americans these days, when they travel overseas, they wear T-shirts that say that they're Canadian. It's like I'm Canadian. And most people who are native to the place will look at it and say, hey, there's an American. Trying to pretend that they're a Canadian. Right? What else? Look at how you're dressed.
Kind of looser clothing.
Loose, very casual, comfortable, T-shirts, sweatshirts, yeah.
I would say sneakers.
Sneakers, sandals. Sandals are a giveaway in some cultures. You think, oh, gee, sandals. I can wear sandals when I'm just like here, but no. Shorts. Men wearing shorts is also a giveaway that you're an American. Yeah.
In Europe, people always dress up to university, school, and here sometimes you see people wearing their pajamas to class.
Yeah, you always dress up. Same in Japan. People, when they go out, they gotta look good. Same in Morocco. Same thing. This is something they share. You go out, you gotta look good. And so I lived in this place in Morocco called Hudaya, which is an old castle, which is one of the original outposts of settlers in Morocco. And it's about 600 years old. I lived in the castle. Okay, now a lot of it is a museum. There's museums and there's gardens and there's places to live. So little villas type, they're blue and white. Well, I'll show a picture of it one of these days. Anyway, it's a big tourist area, so there's always tourists coming through. And I had a place that I parked. I had a car, little Peugeot. This set, little Peugeot that I drove and parked. I had a guy who watched the car. I just hired this guy. I gave him, not much, a little bit, and he'd always kind of keep his eye on the car. So I went out one morning to drive, and there were people wandering all over the place, foreigners. I wasn't really paying attention. I got in the car, and I couldn't get out because all these people were just in the way, right? So he comes up, and he says, okay, and he's trying to get the people to get out of the way. And I said, well, who is it anyway? And he said, oh, they're yours. I said, oh, they're Americans? He goes, yeah, they're Americans. Well, just tell them to get the hell out of the way, and that'll help. No, it was because what? Americans move, never kind of in this kinesics. They move in a more amorphous way as tourists. They're not all over the place, kind of looking around, You take pictures and looking around. What about Germans? How do you know if you got a group of Germans, or a group of Japanese, or a group of French, instead of American in a place like that, do you think? What do you think? We got 2 German students here. What do you think?
I guess, I don't know, depends. I mean, some of them move around, look around too. Some
Yeah.
are really focused on the sites they want to see, so.
There's a greater, I found a greater intentionality of focus for Germans. So they have a goal. They're there, they're prepared, they're going to this place,
Yeah.
right? It's not like they're marching, but they are certainly intent on getting to that place. And once they're there, then they, engage. What about French? In Morocco, the French, everybody speaks French. All Moroccans speak French. So the French are interacting with the local people in the shops and so on and so forth. They're staying on the sidewalks. They're not wandering around. What about Japanese? Straight lines, baby. With a guide and their books and listening. Okay, so these groups are identified by their artifacts, what they're wearing, how they move, and so on. You as an individual, as you are adapting to another culture, also are identified by your movement as well as what you wear. So we're kind of going into kinesics here a little bit. All right? So if you know where you are and what you're doing, you've adapted to the place, you're not gawking around, right? You don't turn around and go the other direction. You have a purpose and you're settling. You wear clothing that's going to blend in with the local population in one way or another. It took me a long time, this seems so simple, but it took me a long time to realize that when I wore sandals, I stuck out in Morocco. Because I thought I had it covered, Why am I still noticed, You get to a point where you just want to not be noticed as, someone different. And it's how you move and how you look and what you're wearing. And finally, I was talking to a Moroccan friend, and she said, it's the sandals, man. Nobody wears those here.
What do they wear?
Shoes?
Just regular shoes.
Regular shoes.
They don't get hot.
Well, they wear sandals at the beach on Sunday, and they wear sandals on Sundays. I mean, it's not to say that people don't wear sandals. People wear sandals, but that's one indicator of what people wear. Okay, let's skip back up to paralanguage. Paralanguage. What's paralanguage? Para. What's para? Para what? Para shoot. Paradox. Paratax. Para. What's another para word? Paragraph. Paranormal. Good. What else? What other paras do we have? Paranoid. Great. Yeah. Parallel. Good. Great. So what's it? What's para? Yeah.
Everything is like together.
Together? Okay. Kind of above. Like parallel, right? There's two lines, one above the other, right? I like parallel. I thought about that. Parallel. That's a good one. So paralanguage is, ordinarily thought of as the form of meanings that are expressed that are non-linguistic. Okay, para-linguistic meaning they're non-linguistic, but they accompany the linguistic, like my hand right now is accompanying my linguistics. Got it? I'm making a gesture. This is para. And my tone. You understand what I'm saying? So the tone is a para-language. You can be stern. You can be inquisitive. We know by the tone whether you're making a demand or a request. Right? That's paralanguage. We can tell from your tone, your tonality, if you're nervous or you're anxious. Or we can tell whether you're not telling the truth. Usually it's a combination of different tones, gestures, and so on that are an indicator of you not being forthright. Okay, we talked about this a little bit already, remember? We talked about how do you know someone's lying? They don't look at you, they don't make eye contact, they're nervous, they're sweaty, their tone is off, their tone doesn't match their language. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So there's a disjunct between the nonverbal and the verbal when someone's lying. To be a really good liar, anybody here's a good liar? I mean, raise your hand and be proud, you know? I mean, there we go. We have some good liars. Everybody look around. Make sure these are not your friends. Okay? We got a several over here. Uh-oh. Okay, so you're a good liar. What do you have to do? Is it practice? You go home and practice lying? I mean, how do you become a good liar?
Confident.
Huh?
You got to be confident.
You have to be confident, right? You have to you have to persuade yourself that you're not lying. You want to believe your own lie. You got a self-delusion, right? Self-delusion. You got to get to a point where you convince yourself that what you're saying is true even though you're not. That's what politicians do, right? That's a bad. I'm sorry. That's an overgeneralization. We have honest politicians, don't we?
Yeah.
Where? They didn't know one? Yeah. You're an honest politician? All right. Great. Honesty, integrity, character.
That's what they all say.
I'm sorry, I'm really overgeneralizing. Okay, so these are the differences, right, between tone, gesture, and expressive language that indicate whether or not someone is telling the truth, whether they're deceiving you or whether they're lying. Okay, we talked about this. Remember I mentioned aphasics before? Remember this? That aphasics, because they don't, many aphasics, not all aphasia, but a lot of aphasics, either because of a brain tumor or a head trauma, or some other head injury or stroke, for example, they lose their capacity to understand words, to understand the meaning of words, and they lose their capacity to speak to language. And so as a result, they become, I say, hypersensitive to tone and gesture. Oliver Sacks uses the word preternatural. Preternatural. It's like, they become really extraordinary perceivers of the disjunct, not just between the verbal and the nonverbal, but between tone and gesture. This is what's amazing about aphasics. They can't understand the words. So the contradiction is not between the verbal and the nonverbal. The contradiction is between the gesture and the tone. That's really microscopic. All right? That's a level that we don't ordinarily recognize or see. We don't see that contradiction between tone and gesture because we're absorbing the language. Yeah, Ron?
I have a question. Do they lose the ability to just understand the words, or do they lose the ability to physically speak the words?
Both. Now, there's very varying intensities, all right, between between that ability. They may be able to develop the capacity to speak and use language again, but have more difficulty hearing it, or they'll begin to be able to hear the words and understand their meaning after they learn language all over again, and then struggle to be able to express it. Yeah, that's what speech pathologists do, and audiologists, speech and language therapists. They are miracle workers for a lot of people to help them with that. Neurologists, many neurologists, psychoneurology, neuropsychology. These folks work with people like that. Oliver Sacks is a neuropsychologist, and he studied a lot of folks with aphasia and agnosia. And agnosia is the inability to recognize. You can perceive, you can see, but you can't recognize what you're looking at. That's visual agnosia. Tonal agnosia is you don't hear the tone. All you hear are the words, but you don't get the tone and the gestures. So you know what else, or who else is good at recognizing the contradiction between tones and gestures? Cops. Is that what you said? I don't think so. Maybe. Yeah, they're trained for that, right? They're trained to examine that as they investigate. So detectives, for example. Detectives and interrogators are looking for that. They're trained for that. That's good. That's a very good point. What else? Who else? Anybody else? Parents. Yeah. Parents have suspicions. What else? How about dogs? Any have dogs? I have a funny story about this. You want to hear this? I serve on a judiciary committee that, when one of you guys screw up and you get charged with something, they have a committee. It's called a committee of fact. And the committee of fact, the judicial affairs puts together a committee of fact. There's a faculty representative, and there's a student affairs representative, and there's a management staff representative. So three, that's a committee of fact. And then we hear the case and read the case and the charges, and the person comes in for an interview, and we interview them. So I had this one guy, this was a number of years ago, this one guy came in, and the student affairs representative was blind. And he had a German Shepherd in the room, a seeing-eyed dog, right, a German Shepherd in the room, sitting in the corner, great dog. And so this guy that we're interviewing is lying. I can see that he's not telling the truth. And every time I began to hear that the dog would growl. The dog would. Every time the guy lied, the dog would growl. I'm like, hey man, this dog should be in the room all the time, because his voice would get really tight, and he would get intense, and his gestures were, dissonant with his tones and what he was saying, and the dog would growl. Dogs are amazing. Okay, so paralanguage. You got paralanguage? We get double messages through paralanguages. These are all examples of double messages. And this creates kind of schizophrenic states in a relationship. When you don't, you can no longer believe the evidence of your senses, right? You ever been in a relationship with a significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, partner, whatever they be, and they're lying to you? And you can sense that they're lying to you because their tone or their gestures don't match up with what they're saying. You're getting two messages at the same time and they contradict each other. It's the paralanguage that cues you to the truth. Right? So you have to make a choice in those situations on what to believe. Are you going to believe the verbal message, or are you going to listen to the nonverbal stuff, the paralinguistic stuff, and say, something isn't right here? Eventually you might be able to see contradictions in the verbal messages, right? So these are examples of how paralanguage functions. How do they function? How does paralanguage function interculturally? In other cultures, where you can make mistakes in your interpretation of people and how they're interacting. Anybody think of an example of that? Following me? We use our own codes, our own nonverbal kind of paralinguistic codes to evaluate, make judgments about other people's veracity, right? Whether they're upset, they're angry, they're happy, they're sad. And if you're adapting to another culture, you become very, very sensitive to other people's nonverbal communication. So, we tend reflexively to use the norms and the codes from our own cultural world to make an assessment of the other person. Are they a threat or not? Are they telling the truth or not? Do they like me or do they not like me? Did what I say, do they agree with what I said and they're just being, cantankerous, or do they not agree with what I've just said, and are just being polite? All right? In our own cultural frames, we can sort all that out, typically. Right? High stakes here. Any of you follow what happened in Tulsa over the weekend? Got another case of it. Black man going home, has car trouble, gets out of his car, hands in the air, goes to the side of his car, puts his hands on, can you watch this video? Check out the video. And he gets shot dead. So here we go. What's the sign? In fact, I've seen a couple of videos of what to do when you're stopped by the police if you're a black man. Here's what you do. You put all your stuff up on the dash, and you put your hands up on the steering wheel, and you look back like this, with all your stuff here. This is a video that, Black Male Image website. Any of you gone to that? Check it out. It's a great website. Here's what you do. Okay, gestures matter. How are you interpreting the gestures? It can be life and death in some situations. This is an intercultural problem. Yeah.
There was a similar case, and I'm not saying either is good because it's horrible, but there was this case where an autistic man who lived in a group home, he wandered off the group home grounds by accident. Right. And he was playing with a toy truck, but people thought it was a gun. And the man who was caring for him, he happened to be African American. Yeah. And he got on the ground and put his hands down, like at his sides on the ground. And he said to the police, and the entire thing was caught on video, please don't shoot him. He's an autistic man. I work with him at his group home. He's playing with a plastic truck. Please don't yell at him or shoot him. He will get agitated and he will run. And they shot the caretaker anyway. And he asked the policeman why he got shot at. And the policeman responds, I don't know.
Yeah, this is a case that happened a few months ago, and there we have too many examples of this now. So we have a gesture of kneeling for the national anthem, right? This is a message being sent, nonverbal kind of message being sent in protest of these kinds of actions. And that's stirred up a lot of stuff too. Okay, so I mean, gestures matter a great deal. They matter a great deal. And the standards that we use to evaluate others and the kinds of tones and gestures they're using come from our own cultural background. Yeah.
The thing is, I always feel like here they try to solve like gun violence with gun violence, and like it just gets worse. And like other countries, no one has a gun, so the police wouldn't even suspect you like trying to shoot them when they stop your car, like whatever nationality you are.
That's right. Yeah, and now we have open carry in many states, so people are walking around with these weapons. So anyway, let's go back to just a situation of relative intensity. We talked about paralanguage, kinesics, and now let's get into proxemics. So proxemics is the amount of space between you and another person, right? Yeah.
What was on kinesics?
Kinesics is movement, how you move. So So, how you move is an indicator of your cultural propensity. And if you go to, major city and everything is speeded up, right? And you're on the street or you're walking on the street, there's a pace that you have to get into. You go to the south, there's a little slower pace. Certain areas of the country can be identified by movement and gesture. So it's kind of together. Paralanguage, gesture is kind of a paralanguage, but also a kind of kinesics. Okay, proxemics is distance from each other. We each have a comfort zone, right, that can be violated. Anybody want to volunteer to come down here for a minute? I need men, women, people of different backgrounds. All right, come on down. Come on down. Come on down. More. Anybody else? Come on. Okay, come on. I need 2 more. Oh, come on.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more.
One more.
One more. Come on. All right. Okay. Let's see. I feel like I'm like a talk show. What's your name?
I'm Robin.
Robin.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, Ria.
Julia.
Julia.
Jessica.
Jessica. Zach. Jared. Jake. All right, look at this. We got 3 guys and 4 women. Didn't we have 1 more guy? Come on, so we need 1 more guy. Here we go. Thanks. Come on down. My old buddy here. Oh, I got your shoes on. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Patrick, did you move forward a little bit? All right, so I want the guys to line up over here. I want the women to line up over here. Okay, face off. Back up a little bit. Come on, we need more space. That's okay. I want the women. No, we shouldn't do it that way. We want the guys to walk towards the women, and as soon as you are uncomfortable, you say stop, and you guys stop. All right. On your mark, get set, go slow. All right, go. I think you're good there. Stop. Does that mean stop? I think you're good there. Okay, so we have some differences, right? Okay, so is this cultural or is this like, let's do an evaluation of the space here. We have about, 18 inches here, 2 feet, 2.5 feet, 3 feet over there. All right, any analysis? Is there a norm here? Yeah.
A little more comfortable when a bigger built person comes towards you because they seem like maybe more threat.
Okay, all right, if they're walking towards you. Okay, now, back up again. All right, now, you guys, you walk, or you be cool, all right? All right, you walk towards them, and I want you to stop when you're uncomfortable, and if they keep moving and you're uncomfortable, you say stop. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, all right, so, okay, go. Is it about the same? I guess it is, isn't it? Okay, now I want you to all turn and face that direction and shuffle so your shoulders are almost touching. You okay? You okay? Any of you uncomfortable? Are you uncomfortable? No? Yeah, you're uncomfortable? Okay. If you're uncomfortable, move away.
He's like, okay.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you. Go sit down. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's give them some more applause. Do we have any Asian? Do we have any Asian international students here? We usually have Korean or Chinese or Japanese in the room. Do you have nobody Asian this time? Because the distance is a bit wider for Asian. For the like Arab and North African, it's especially close, much closer than what Americans typically are comfortable with in interaction. I mean, we talked about kissing on both cheeks and so on. So that closeness is assumed to be normative in those environments. And I think Mediterranean too, right? I mean, in Italy it's the same. I mean, there's a closeness among friends and family members and so on, but even sometimes among strangers that it's not problematical. What about when you go to a cafe or a restaurant? You evaluate the space. You can sit wherever you want. You evaluate the space, right? Where you want to sit. And there's usually some distance between others. In other cultures, it's close. You don't have much choice. You're kind of shoved together. You get used to it. Any of you ride on a really crowded train? Yeah, where?
From Philly to Washington, D.C.
Philly to Washington, D.C. So you had to stand? You had to stand the whole way? Were you like packed like sardines?
Yep.
You were? And did people look at each other?
Not really.
No. Yeah. How'd you get out? I mean, if you were in a packed train, you have to kind of force your way out?
Yeah, but most of the people were going to Washington to D.C.
So you were able to just go with the
Mass
flow.
exodus.
You know how Japanese get through a crowd? Anybody know? I mean a crowd. I'm talking lots of people. Right? Really crowded. Tight. Together. You know what they do? They do this. And they walk. And the crowd parts like the Red Sea. It's amazing. It's a phenomenon. You just do this. You know how Americans interpret that? They do this. They do kind of karate chop, chop. That's how Americans interpret that sign, which is very aggressive from a Japanese point of view. This is very aggressive. This is aggressive. And you just do this. Just grab to the nose. It's almost like here. Amazing. You ever get in line? You know what a queue, form a queue? You ever been in a culture where lines are not, you don't know what a queue is? People, what we would consider to be butting in line, wait a minute, no, I mean, you're just stupid standing up there, You gotta get up, you gotta fight for your place. So every culture is gonna have a different form of kind of organizing themselves reflexively in a crowd. In Japan, like in the train between Philly and DC, during rush hour, you're packed like this. Nobody makes any eye contact. Some people are sleeping. Some people are reading. Some people are staring. You don't make any eye contact. Okay, haptics is touch. So we're into touch here. What is acceptable and what is not acceptable in terms of touching. How are different ways of touching kind of normativized, what's acceptable and what's, it changes within a culture. I came up in a counterculture in the 60s and the 70s where touching was like, no problem. People touch each other all the time. That's where hugging and so on, normative. It became normative in this culture. I was raised, my primary socialization was, you shake hands. My father didn't hug me. I don't want to, it's not, I'm on a psychoanalytic couch here or anything. It was his cultural norm that hugging was not like within the realm of possibility. I come home as a kid or as a teenager, it was just shake hands, keep your distance, be a man. I don't know. Eventually as he got older and he became a grandpa, we started hugging. It was really great. What a breakthrough, They would hug my dad. Now it's just normative, most, not all I suppose, but many folks, men, they hug their dads, it's okay. So hugging, touching changes within culture, and now, there's proscriptions against touch or touching anybody if you're in a status relationship, right? Employer, employee, teacher, student, whatever the case may be, you know, you don't touch. Don't touch. So touch within cultures, some cultural groups, is more acceptable. There are certain forms of touching that are not, depending upon who you are. I talked about the kissing phenomenon. We talked about that a little bit already. So that gives you some examples. So anybody have an example of like appropriate and inappropriate touching? Yeah.
One of my professors always tells the story of how, like, in the United States, if you see a child and they're cute, you go and kind of like, not rub their head, but like pat their head and say something like, "Oh, you're so cute." He traveled to Europe, and like a big group of like Americans did, and one of his friends did that, and there were police nearby, and they came and arrested him. And
For touching the kid?
Yeah, like kind of like rubbing their head, like they came up and talked to him and like just asking him questions. They thought he was trying to like kidnap the child.
Oh, this is in France?
I think for some reason I thought he said it was Germany, but
Oh, Germany?
wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think that.
You don't pick up other kids and other people's kids?
No, if you don't know them, then you don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I was at the Apple store in, down near Pittsburgh, and there was this beautiful child in a buggy, and his mother was there, and I mean, the kid was just adorable, right? And I just commented on the kid, and the mother looked at me like, "Back off, buddy. You're not touching my kid." I said, "Oh, no, I just," she said, she's a little fussy. I said, "Oh, no, fussy to me, what a beautiful child." You know, I was just being complimentary. She's like, "Fuck off, buddy." So you know, in Morocco, we had a problem with my son because we go out with my son, and everybody wanted to kiss him. You know, everybody wants to kiss him. So after a while, I was like, "Oh, you can't do this. No, you can't." I mean, family is okay. I mean, family wants to kiss, and friends, that's fine. Strangers on the street, right, want to kiss your kid. No, we're not going to do that. So, you know, it's normative for that to happen, for them to kiss the child. Yeah.
Also, when my sister's blonde, when we were young, it was like 1990s. We were in Thailand, and they haven't seen too many blonde people, so everyone touched my sister's hair.
Yeah, it's good luck.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you're blonde, traveling in Thailand, I don't know, color your hair.
I mean, it also depends, like, if you're, like, younger or older. You probably wouldn't do it with, like, much older persons. I know.
Well, I have that problem in the ballgame, you know. It's good luck, you know.
In Spain, where my dad's from, is like the opposite of kids. Because the thing is, the way it works in Spain is like your entire family lives in the town where you live. So you don't know who they are, but they know you.
Oh.
So they'll end up saying, "Hi, how are you?
Mhm.
You want to hold my kid?" And it's just like, "Who the hell are you? I don't want to hold your kid."
And get your kid away. It's fun. Any other examples? Okay, half days, chronemics, let's talk about time. I mean, look at the clock. Right? We have, how many minutes left? Can you do counting the time? Take it out of here. We have 13 and a half minutes. 13 and a half minutes. Are you aware of the clock? And if I told you today we're going to have to stay late, because we haven't covered all the material and we really got to get through this material, what's going to happen to you at 12:15? Huh? What are you going to start doing?
I'm gonna start thinking about lunchtime.
Lunch, right? Suddenly I'm starved. What are you going to do? You're going to pack up your stuff. What else are you going to do? You're going to fidget? You're going to pack up? I'm saying, hey, come on, stop it now. Or I got to make this point, an important point. This is going to make the difference for your lives. This next point. And you're saying, fuck it, man, I want to get out of here. Make a difference in my life. Just because what's happening? Time is dictating your behavior. Right? The clock time is dictating your behavior because you're monochronic. We're monochronic in this society. You know, we're driven by a schedule, we're driven by time. I am too, you know, I mean, 12:15 comes, it's time for me to leave too. You know, pack up my stuff and go get some lunch. But we're driven by schedules, and we conceive of time as external. It's external. So time drives the form of interactions interculturally. All right, if you have one indoctrinated orientation to time, which we all do, then changing that orientation, you can't do it cognitively. I mean, it's really difficult. Very, very difficult to say, okay, at 12:15, I'm going to make a decision. I'm not going to let time affect me. You want to try it? Nobody wants to try it, right? Can you make that choice cognitively? You can say it to yourself, okay, 12:15 doesn't matter, I'm going to hang out here and chill and listen to the thing that's going to affect the rest of my life. No, it's tough. It takes a long, because time is embodied. Time is not external, time is embodied. We embody that clock, our watch, our phone, you know. We embody it. It's part of us. It's how we live and breathe in time. So it's very, very difficult to change our behavior, not just our behavior, but our feelings, you know, about something, like being late. All right? If you're polychronic instead of monochronic, what's it mean? Well, it's not that you don't care about time. I mean, you still care about time, but what's important is the duration of the event, okay, and what's taking place in the now, in the here and the now, and a recognition that you can be involved in multiple kind of time frames at the same time. I'll give you a classic example. Again, I'll go back to I can use both, you know, Japan and Morocco for this because they're different. In Morocco, I'm with a colleague. He's coming to my hotel, and we're walking across Rabat, the city of Rabat, to get to the university for an event that we're both involved in. And this is a good friend and colleague. On the way, he meets 3 different people on the sidewalk who he knows. Okay? I mean, we have just about enough time to get to the university in time for this event. So the American mentality, which I embody, is a straight freaking line to the auditorium that we're going to, right? I'm not looking around too much, I'm just like, let's go, type, we're on our... Time runs into his friends, and what's he do? He stops. He kisses. They ask about each other's families. And they, you know, have an exchange. The American would do what? Hey, what's up? Good to see you. Later. And you move it. You don't stop. You're on your tide stops 3 times on our way. Greets the other person. So, now, the other person can know that they're in a hurry. And then, of course, has to introduce me. And I'm like, okay, hi, nice to meet you. Good, yeah, great. Yeah, I know your family. That's good. No, you don't. There's a tendency of the American, and even me, and I've been going to Morocco and I've lived there extended periods of time and so on, to resist that.
How long were each of his conversations?
We're talking 30 to 40 seconds, which to an American is an eternity, right? When you're late, you can't deal with that. So the whole idea of being late changes. This isn't to say that Moroccans are late. I mean, you know, you have an important meeting, you're there on time. It's important to be there on time for whatever it might be. but there's a different attitude about time that is embodied by them. In Japan, you can set your clock by the time the train arrives. The precision of time and timing in Japan is extraordinary. Okay, it's this, I don't know, in some ways hyper monochronic, but then you would also have to sometimes wait for a meeting that you're there on time, and if the other party perceives that they are the wrong ones to be talking to you, then you'll wait until they figure out who the proper people are to talk to you with regard to status. So time is going to fluctuate, and it's living in the culture itself and in the social world itself over an extended period of time that you begin to embody the time frame that is operating there. Right? Some workplaces, for example, are hyper, fast, I guess you could say, right? Things have to be done quickly. There's a high degree of efficiency that's expected, right? No wasted effort. Other workspaces are a little bit more casual, you take more time, and so on. So knowing the time frame within the company, the organization, the business, the institution, whatever it may be, that you're working in is also very crucial. You have to learn to adapt to that organizational time frame. Does that make sense? Any questions about any of this? Now, see, we're at 4 minutes. So you cannot not think about eating, right? I mean, you're even asking yourself, hey, maybe he's going to want to start early. I mean, it's happening, right? I think he's at the we're at the bottom of the freaking list. So, he's not going to go over that 100 list, is he? The verbal stuff. Right? So you're thinking about it. You want to, how many of you want to be part of this experiment where we wait beyond the 4:15? Anybody want to be part of this? This is like, I have power, but you know what? My power is about to be tested. My power over time and your time. This is a really hard and fast battle line. Look, some of you put your shit together already. Right? I mean, this is power. Power over time is power. Parents have that power over their kids, right? Power over their time. Once the kid gets a car, suddenly is liberated. Why? Not because they have the car, because they have control over their time in ways they never did before. Right? And you know what? Parents are complicit with this because they say, yeah, now I have more time myself. I don't have to be coming and picking you up and taking you places either. It's time. Time is incredibly powerful. And whoever has control over that time has power. Right? How we doing? We have 2 minutes left. 3 minutes left. You can make time. Can you stretch time? Can you make time to go longer? Don't you think right now we're in a space where time is taking its time? I mean, it's like, it's never going to get there. You ever feel that? I mean, it's an affect, right? It's an affective condition where you think, or it speeds up. When does time speed up? When you're doing something you like, you're totally engaged, right? You're talking with your lover, or you're, working out, or maybe not working out, or you listen to music, or you're reading a great novel, right? Time flies by. You read novels anymore? You're in intercultural class, time just goes so fast, right? Just, phew, wow. That was such a great lecture, I had so much fun. I didn't even realize 75 minutes had passed. So we have 1 minute to go. No, we don't. We have more like, we have 2 minutes. 2 minutes to go. Are you uncomfortable?
Yeah.
You just want to get out of here, right? Any insights or want to talk about your feeling? Yeah.
I think it depends on what you have to do afterwards. Like,
Okay, if you get across
Yeah,
campus,
if you have
if
to,
you're
like,
really
catch a
hungry like
bus.
Patrick, he's dying, he's wanting
Yeah.
to eat. Or whatever, I don't think so. I think that plays a part, but I think the time itself has a power in itself. You know, of course, it has to be related to schedule, you know, but you have 15 minutes to get wherever it is you're going, right? So,
I mean, like,
or you go to the bathroom, I mean, that's another thing, a bodily need. It's like, get me out of here, I gotta go, right?
I don't know, in school, like, our bus always came like 2 or 3 minutes after class was done. And if the teacher went longer, we got nervous because we would have wait half an hour to catch the next one, so.
Oh, right, so that's really key. Now, you know, we have, what, 30 seconds? Exactly, 30 seconds, by my watch. 30 seconds to go. How you feeling? Ready to go? Ready to get out of here? How many, I just want to take a quick, you know, survey, all right? How many of you could just probably hang out a little bit longer? All right, that's cool. All right. Well, I'll tell you all the really important stuff about the next test. If you're hanging out a little bit longer. All right. And if those, you know, and we're over time now. Look, you have any left? It's happening. Look, people standing up. There we go, look, there we go. Have I dismissed you? Huh? Not high school anymore, you have freedom. Freedom of choice, freedom of time. My time is important, I'm out of here.